Our scripture this morning comes from a New King James Version of Psalms 91. Safety of abiding in the presence of God. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadows of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snares of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You should not be afraid of the terror by night. You should not be afraid nor the arrow that flies by the day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look, and see the reward of the wicked. But because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even in the Most High, your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. For He shall give His angel charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. In their hand they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore I will deliver Him. I will set Him on high, because He has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
About 100 years ago, World War I was going on, and the 91st Infantry, the brigade, was called upon. The leader of the brigade was a Christian. So what he did was he got the 91st Psalms. It just so happened the 91st Brigade and the 91st Psalms come together. And he told his group of men, young men, read this. Pray about it. Read it daily. And it just so happened they were called upon the three bloodiest wars, part of the World War I. And guess what happened? They all come out of it without a fatality. There was other brigades that went that lost 90% of their brigade. That's why I had the 91st Psalms read. If God can keep a brigade from being hurt in a bloody, bloody war, He can keep each one of us. So the soldier, that is called the Soldier Psalms. And our first Sabbath, Doug, another guy that was on our trip, which is not an Adventist, he's a Baptist. He gave me the story. And he just touched on it, so we worked together, and so I found out what it all meant. And so I did a little research and found out what it all is. There's 4 points. In the 91st Psalms, you will not be afraid. That's in verse 5 through 7. Although the dangers are very real and present, God tells us not to be afraid. Now that's tough, right? Understand, we're all afraid. But the Bible does not sugarcoat life. Life is present with dangers and even terrors. We are not to believe that somehow we are immune to all the ever events, dangers of life. However, God says that you will not be afraid of the terrors of night, nor the arrows that fly by day. According to the Psalms, danger comes day or night. Then the second one, you will trust and watch. What does that mean? In verse 8, we read, you will only look out with your eyes. So we've got to use our eyes. The third one, you will move forward. We don't want to go backwards, right? So we got to go forward. In verse 13, you will tread upon the lions and the cobras. But when it's your duty, move forward. There is lions, cobras, and what we do to do. What are we to do? Step on them. All right. So encouragement here in verse 13 is, if you're a student, study. If you've got a job, do your job for God. We witness, we are gifts to the, we should continue to do all this. Learn not to fear, stop us from, to move out of this. Let us not to fear, stop us from doing that which God has already laid in our hearts. You must move forward. In the last part, you will pray. Key, pray. We just talked about this in our Sabbath school lesson. We got to pray. In verse 15, he will call upon me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and let him behold my salvation. You will not be afraid. You will trust and watch. You will move forward. The Psalms ends with the part of the dynamo that keeps us all together. You will pray. God claims his promise. So what makes the 91st Psalm so special and amazing? In verse 5, you will not be afraid by the terrors of night. You will not be afraid is his first instruction. In verse 8 he says, you will only look on. Those words, God says that you will watch and trust. Verse 13 reads, you will tread upon the lions and the cobras. Here he says, you will move forward. Finally, verse 15, it is written from God's perspective when it reads, he will call upon me. God says that you will pray for instructions that God gives us to fight fear and raise up into our hearts. God is mercy. Understand that he will be afraid, so he instructs us what to do and when to do it. Amazing, huh? Psalms 91. I did the whole sermon in 5 minutes. Now we get to look at slides. I believe that the reason I did that is because it does have a mission, and I like the story. We did a mission trip, and it was very amazing. But I think the slides, and I think we should have worship, and this was one of our worships. Before we go on to show you what God has let us do. So we got 60-some slides to go through. And I was instructed 5 minutes, and I did take 6. So here we go. Thank you.
So we're just going to kind of start out.
I forgot. I got the soldier psalms. We made them up for each and every one of you to take and read every day. If it can lead a World War I brigade safely, each and every one of you can be protected by the same thing. So, amen. One's for you. Don't let me forget.
So I was just going to say, this actually all started back about August of last year. Steve called us and said, hey, you and Daryl want to go on a mission trip? And we're like, where? And so, it took us a little bit. We had to pray about it. And so we decided to do it, and it was probably one of the most amazing things that we've ever done.
Steve prayed harder, I think.
Yes, I think so. Actually, I think Tori did, because she was insistent we were going to go. Essentially, when we went out, we actually were only allowed to take one bag of checked bag, which ended up being free. Then we also had to take 2 bags of medications, which was a fee, which, thank you. everyone for helping pay for those. The two largest bags are actually our medication bags. The backpacks are our clothing and everything else.
98 pounds of medicine.
Yeah, it was amazing. You want to go ahead? This is a map of all the Fiji islands. And Daryl's just going to kind of show you where we actually landed and kind of like our first part of our trip.
Can't read it.
Oh, okay.
Right there.
Yeah. And then we actually flew in over in Nandi, excuse me. It's spelled N-A-D-I, but it's pronounced with an N. And they do a lot of that with their, because Kadavu is actually Kandavu, not Kadavu. Nandi is actually way on the far left in that little cove where the airplane is, right there. When we got there, we were supposed to actually get right on a plane and start flying out to go to Kandavu, which is where the resort that we were staying in, where we were going to do our clinics and construction work. However, when we got there, our flight had been canceled. Actually, it was postponed for 2 days. So we couldn't fly out until Saturday morning. So we were like, where do we go? What do we do? So we actually took a bus through the mountainous 3 hours on a bus to get the other side to Lamy, which is a small town just south of Suva, which is the capital. Then 2 days later, we got back on that bus and we went back 3 hours to the airport and flew out of there in a very small airplane that was probably 16-passenger airplane. This is actually us when we first got to the airport 15 hours later from leaving Madison. Actually, it was probably longer. That was a total flight time, was 15 hours, so we had some layovers in Chicago and in LA. Left LA at 10:30 at night on Tuesday and got to Nandi, excuse me, at 6 a.m. Thursday. So of course you can tell everyone's very tired.
Doesn't Daryl look excited?
Yeah. Absolutely. So we did a lot of just kind of hanging out at the airport, trying to figure out what was going on, where we had to go, what we were going to do. So of course took little naps. So when we ended up having a little bit more downtime than we expected, we ended up staying at Lamy and went into Suva and did a little bit of touring. And the picture on the far left is actually one of their prison systems. They actually have a fair amount of prisons, but they don't have a lot of like high crime. They're more petty crime, and they make our clothing at their prisons. They make the sulus, the sarongs, which is the skirts that both the women and the men wear, and the shirts. They make the shirts, that the brightly colored clothing that they wear. And farming. They do a lot of farming, the prisoners do. They don't even lock the doors. It was actually quite interesting. Just kind of a quick picture of their ambulance service. I never saw one running, but it was quite interesting. This is a photo, these are photos just outside of our hotel in Lamy, the Novotel. Beautiful bay. And one of our buses. This is actually our bus as we're heading out to go back to get on the airplane. And some of you would recognize these too.
That's the plane right here. We flew on this plane to get to the next island, right here. And then from there, we took a boat for another 2 hours to the island that we did our mission on.
So the gentleman up on the right-hand side, this was Sabe. Sabe was like our Fiji go-to. And in fact, he used to be the person in charge of ADRA in Fiji. He's since retired from that, and now he does this pretty much full-time for volunteer health professionals. He's trying to help with getting clinics and healthcare out to the smaller islands, specifically the island of Kandavu and the surrounding islands there. His wife is actually on the lower side. That's Akesa. She also was very extremely helpful and organized. I think she helped him actually keep himself organized really well. Wonderful people. The middle picture is actually looking out of the airplane. That is the coral reef that goes around one of the islands out there. I'm not sure which one that is. Most beautiful coral reef I've ever seen, but I haven't seen a lot of them. But it's supposed to be one of the, 5 greatest coral reefs in the world.
You can kind of tell, like, see, this is bluish green, then you got your pinkish, then you go to gray.
It's like that when you ride a boat. We rode that boat for 2 hours. You'll go over a silver, I mean, it's silver. And all of a sudden it'll turn just blue as blue. And I thought it was water, looked down, it was coral. It is cool.
Yes, before we could get even on the plane, the small plane, we had to all our luggage get weighed, which all of our check luggage got considered as freight, and then we actually had to jump on the scale ourselves with our carry-on bags and get weighed, because they had to count for every single pound that went onto that airplane to make sure that we weren't overloaded, which I'm glad they did. They were very discreet, thankfully, for doing their weigh-ins. This is actually once we got into the island of Kandavu, and the runway, you could see from one end to the next, is so short, and it was water on both ends. So it was a little bit hairy, but they were very good pilots. And we actually ended up flying in on one end of Kandavu, and then we had to take a boat to the other side, which the top picture right there is actually the boats that we took up 2 boats out, and we had all our luggage on one boat, and then all the guys on one, and then everybody else was on the other one. 2 hours. The thing is, what don't you want to tell them about 2 hours?
Oh, Fiji time. Fiji time. Do you guys know about Fiji time?
Kind of like Mexico.
When it happens, it happens. In 30 minutes, we'll be there 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes. How much longer? 30 minutes. Hour and a half goes by. How much longer? 30 minutes. It's Fiji time. When it happens, it happens. It's going to happen, but not right now. So, Fiji time. 2 hours and some minutes, but it's always 30 minutes. No matter where you go, it's 30 minutes.
The picture off to the left is actually the beach that we had to walk down to go to the village where we did our clinics. And anywhere you went, you either walked or you took a boat. We stayed at Taliba Resort, which is a non-functioning resort. So it's really overgrown. It was still beautiful. As you can tell, the walkway is kind of overgrown with the trees and the bushes, and you actually had to kind of push them away as you're walking up to go to, this is actually where we ate. It's just an open dining area, which was pretty remote in a sense that you didn't have a lot of times even silverware. So the first food that we actually had there, actually this is Max. Max was our cook, and wonderful guy. He actually took off work to come and cook for us. He drives car?
Yeah.
he is an Adventist. This guy is, Max. He drives in Suva. Like tourists come there, he'll drive. Instead of rent a car, they rent a car with him, and he does the driving.
You don't want to drive there. So he was in the military for 9 years as a cook. So he went way above and beyond to try and make it as good for us and accommodating everyone, because you had your vegetarians and you had, those that weren't. And initially he's actually cooking because for non-vegetarians, and we had 3 that were vegetarians. So he actually went back into the kitchen and started preparing something that they could have also. So he went way above and beyond. Some of the first food that we actually had there was not this. The first food we had was mangoes, fresh right off the tree, just as ripe as can be. Still in their skin, just the mango like you buy off the store. And baked bean sandwiches. Never had one of them. Daryl says he's had them, but I've never had one. The mangoes, though, were amazing. Of course, they're ripened right off the tree, so, they're not like what we get here. And you don't peel them, per se. You don't take a knife to them. You bite into it and peel it. And some of them are even bite off the top and suck out the juice and then eat the meat part. This actually is some of the food that they eat, and we ate a lot of this. The white, well, it's hard to see the color actually, but the bigger ones actually up on the top, those are cassava. Cassava is a root. It's a very long, large root. It's probably about that big. It's when it's cooked, it actually is an awful lot like a dry potato. And they don't put anything on it. Literally, no salt, nothing. And it's actually very tasty. Then down at the bottom is that large root, and that's called taro. It's a taro root. Taro is actually a plant that they garden that. They actually go and plant it in large gardens. And taro is actually like a purple potato. So it tastes not like a potato, except it's a little bit more, I don't know if it would be grainy or pasty texture, but it's actually kind of a grayish purple. It tastes good, but if you can get beyond color. They also eat the leaves and the stems of that, so they don't waste one part of the taro plant. And the leaves are just like basically spinach. It's kind of a different flavor, but it's more like spinach. They use a lot of coconut water or milk to sweeten things.
Sunday, we went to church here. This is a church on that island, the Village people. Right here, this spot right here, there's a log hollowed out, and that's how they, the kids, when we go to the next slide, I think it is, you got the kids? Get the kids up there.
So the day before we went to church, the people that had been there before, they said, go early. Go early. And so we're okay, we'll go early. So when we got there, this is what we found.
Notice where the kids are. No adults.
And there were no adults there. Except us.
These kids, there's that hollow log I was telling you about there in front. They beat on it 3 times. The first time, they're going to start singing. Second time, it's getting closer to church time. And they go back in and sing a song or two. But the third time, they really beat on this thing, and you can hear it everywhere. I mean, it is really cool. And then they go back in and sing a song. The adults are in there, and church begins. And but the kids are responsible for all this. And I did not see one adult tell them what to sing, when to sing, how to sing. They just do it. If you notice, the little kids, there's little kids. They just mingle in the rest of them, and the big ones will just elbow them and start singing. I mean, they bellow it out. It's really pretty cool. I mean, but then the older ones do the beating on the drums, and but it's kind of a ritual that.
But their older ones are this age.
Yeah.
These are the older ones.
And they love to have the picture taken. That's what's cool about it, and they're happy. Guess what this is? Over here. What is that? Can you see? Yep. This is the village shower. What do you think? Are we blessed with a shower every morning? And hot water? That's what they do.
Not that they really needed hot water there. It was 100 degrees most of the time, so you really didn't need it.
And they do have their own school. Yeah.
The school here is actually set up on the hill. They do have a few little dorms. This is just a primary school though. And so children from other villages come and stay there. So the teacher is responsible for those children that stay there. And there's actually quite a few. In some of the clinics that we did, the teacher is coming in with some of the kids. And I'm like, why is the teacher, not their parents, coming in? And this is when we found out that they actually stay there. And she's responsible for them. Notice the satellite dish on the buildings. The buildings don't even have windows, but they have satellite dishes. And also solar panels. The government put them in for them, so that each home has actually a solar panel, so they can actually get some kind of electricity. The bananas we actually saw on the way to church that Sunday morning. So we started the clinics actually on Monday morning. We set up in what would be like their community center. It's right next to the church. It's just a big open building. You actually have to take your shoes off before you walk into any building there. Everybody's either barefooted or wearing sandals, flip-flops. Shoes come off before you even walk into the place. There's no furniture. We were fortunate that we had a few chairs. And what we have all our equipment on is actually a pool table that they took from the resort.
Yeah, that is an unwritten rule that when you walk to the top step of their porch, your flip-flops, your sandals come off. And it's not that it's clean in there, that's just a rule. I mean, you take it off and you sit down and that's
a respect.
Their homes don't have chairs, they don't have beds. They have like wicker type mats or like rugs. They're great big huge mats that they actually both sleep on, sit on. They invite you in and you sit down in the middle of their living room. I would guess it's their living room, and sit around and talk with them. So clinics, Steve, he was our screener. He did blood pressures, pulses, asked them, we wanted to know where people were coming from, what villages they came from. Most of them would say, oh, I'm from Ono, but yet they live there because they married into the Toliva village. Apparently it's made up of 3 clans in actual Toliva village. He was also doing blood sugar, so Steve got to do lots and lots and lots of blood sugars. The biggest problem he had was flea bites. So outside that door, he sat there for 2 days straight. Outside that door is a great big sand pit. And the kids would run in and out behind him, so they're dragging all that sand in barefooted, and his feet were just completely bit up because of, it wasn't that he was walking it, it was because he was sitting near it. We saw anything from abscesses. I think we had one person that was actually, we're 99.9% sure she had cancer. Ear infections, both external and internal, lots of fungal, tinea type of infections because of it's so wet there and damp and humid, and lots of sinus infections, some that even sounded like maybe pneumonia, but a lot of open sores. You can see, well, we did clinics. They sat on those mats all day long. All day long they would sit. Like these women here, they'd sit there and they'd feed their babies and they would watch all day long. And if they weren't inside, they were sitting outside. The men, a lot of the men sat outside the building, just sat out and just kind of hung out all day long. If they weren't watching us, they were watching the dental. We actually saw a 4-year-old with shingles, which, you know, most of the time you see only in the older, at least over 50. But then after we actually saw that one, we started seeing chickenpox in children that were under a year old. They apparently do get their vaccinations, however, you know, the 1-year-old's too young to get their first varicella. Daryl, at the last particular clinic that we did, he ended up kind of having to wait out for us because it was the last day and the day before the cyclone came, the day of the cyclone, and so we were trying to get the clinics done before we would get back to our motel before the curfew sat in, because no cars were allowed on the road at curfew, which was at 5 o'clock, and so we were trying to get everything done.
And it's 10 minutes to 5.
Yeah, and you could hardly walk because the wind is so strong. But we actually did 2 clinics in the church. The Seventh-day Adventist church, it was just down the road. They had their potluck, and then we came down there from 1 to 3 and did a clinic. And then we also did one in a church plant, which was someone's home. And that was quite hairy because you know, as you could see on some of those other pictures, they actually have no windows on their homes. So we actually were sitting in this little room. Daryl was on the front porch sitting, that was completely open. And then we actually, in fact, you could kind of see behind me on the top one, there's a window there, and on the outside is just a tarp that's just out there. And so it's blowing, you know, 90 miles an hour. And this tarp is flapping. You can't hear a thing. I don't know how I heard anything. Because it was so, but you were so busy you didn't even really pay attention. You didn't even notice it until you went to go leave, and then you're like, wow. Betty is the other nurse practitioner that was there on the trip, and she had been there once before, yes. And so she was kind of my go-to because I was like, you know, what are we doing here? You know, where are we going? It was pretty amazing. This is our first little one that we saw with chickenpox, as you can see. And Doug and Betty is a nurse practitioner. Doug is the one that worked with Daryl. He's a engineer, and he's the one that actually did the soldier story. Now, Daryl.
Oh, this is me. Construction there is a total different ball game. You can see we got a post hole digger, and this is Noni. He was my excavator. He moved 2 feet of dirt, 10 feet out. It went from nothing to 2 feet both ways. He did it all by a shovel and barefoot. So I called him my excavator. I'd help him, and he said, no, they're paying me. Well, they weren't paying him nothing, really, $2 an hour, I think, or $1 an hour. And so I always was helping him, but he'd always shoo me away. And there's Noni caught a fish. I'll tell you a little story about that. Noni was one of my guys that worked, him and Ben. We'll get to Ben in the next picture, I think. But Noni has a garden, and he's a hog hunter too. And we got to, hunting. I thought, this is cool, man. I get to talk to a guy hunting. No guns are allowed there. And I said, so how do we go hunting? He goes, you got 2 dogs. And he started tearing up, and I go, wow, man, this is serious. And he kept talking, and he goes, 2 dogs were chasing this hog last Christmas. Got the hog, it was a wild hog, obviously. Got him cornered, and they killed one of his dogs. And, his dogs, that's his money. He makes like $200 a hog. And I said, so how'd you kill the hog? And he says, I walked up to him, I hit him right here with a spear. Can you imagine just being that close to a wild hog? And, but he was tearing up because he lost his best friend, which made him money. And then, so this picture, the day before, we were excavating, and I said, and he's a gardener too, and I says, Noni, you got them little bananas. I want them little sugar bananas. And he goes, oh yeah, I got them. I says, bring me some. I'll buy some. I'll do whatever. I'd like to taste them. Everybody says they're the best. And he went on and on about it, And so the next day, which is this day, we were taking pictures of the fish, and we were talking, and I go, Noni, you got my bananas? And it was just like, oh no, I disappointed my friend. So what Noni did, is when you remember Max, that guy in the white shirt, is our cook. Noni went up to Ben, which Ben is Max's twin brother, called up Max and asked him if he would cook that fish for Daryl. So I and 3 other guys, the only guys that ever had fresh fish on this trip because of the typhoon coming through, the waves were high. He felt so bad. That was for his family, and I did not know this was happening. We got fresh fish because he disappointed his friend. That is called, I don't know what it's called, but I think it's just the coolest thing, that he disappointed somebody, he's going to make it right with you. So that's Noni. And this is our job site up here. We built a little building on the end. I'm laying it out there. And right here, you can see, you see all that? Right here is Noni shoveling. Right? We were working together, and he put his foot up on the bank there, and his foot, at the ball of his foot, was 5 1/4 inches. 5 1/4 inches. I go, man, Noni, I have so much fun when I'm working, And I said, Noni, do they make shoes for you? He goes, I think so. And so, he don't know, but they walk around barefoot. He walks the jungle. He goes everywhere barefooted. So, but yeah, so we had a good time. We got, go to the next one. And this is Balo. He's basically the village. I got a story to tell you about him too. At church, we get introduced on Sabbath when we got there, and he was there. And how am I supposed to remember Balo? That ain't like John or Chris or, Balo. So we get to church, and he's coming across the field to me, and I go, I know you. And he turned around and he goes, I know you. So the next week, it was Balo would come up, I know you. He knew my name by now, but it was our introduction now, so everybody thought that was pretty cool. And this is the pair. This is how they clean the land. They get these knives, and it's just a long knife. They cut trees down with it and everything. That's how they clear the land up above our job site. So, and this parrot is only found on 2 islands, where we were and Ono. This is my best friend Ben, and I'll tell you why he's my best friend. The day we did this, go to the next one too, please. This is how we chiseled them in. You handsaw, you take your chisel, which I brought a chisel, and you chisel it, and you're making a bean pocket there. This day is the day the people from our group was going to go, some of us were going to go to the jungle. Never been to a jungle, so I wanted to go to this jungle, and we go to a waterfall, which I think is very cool. And so this Ben, it was just him and I, because Doug had went scuba diving with the girls, and he said, Ben said he's going to work with me. And I said, I only got 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours? And we got over, it's just hot, you're wringing wet. And we had to put posts in and chisel that in. And we had to cut posts. Everything's by hand. And Ben says, oh, let's take a break. And I go, I don't have time to take a break. I says, we'll just take turns and work together, get it done. And we were raining wet. And, you know, and he says, let's take a break. And I go, no, get a drink of water and let's go. I'm going to the jungle and I'm not missing it. That's just the way it is. And I pushed him pretty hard. I go, you know, I figured he didn't like me no more, you know. And we got all done. I walked back over to the village, got on a boat, and we went to the jungle, which you'll see pictures of. And I get back, Max, his twin brother, Daryl, come here, I want to talk to you. I says, talk to me, you know, I'm too far from home to be in trouble. And he goes, I want to talk to you. So I went over and he goes, Ben, come to me and says, you're his best friend. Isn't that cool? I worked a tar out of this guy and he wants to be my best friend. You know, but we work together. So I tell you, if you work together, you're friends. So, right. This is Ben. I don't know that guy. That's Balo. That's about pretty much what we do. Have a skill saw this day, but we had to go borrow a generator. Everything's 220. So instead of borrowing it for the day, we just hand sawed a lot of this stuff because, you know, to replace that stuff if you break it or what have you, because we got to load it on the boat and take it back every night. We did a lot of work just by hand. So this is Noni. He's another good friend. He's smoking a cigarette, and you know, and I just can't help but ask, you know. He rolled me one, you know, and not that I want to smoke one, but roll one so I can see it. He rolls it out of newspaper. And there's not enough tobacco in this newspaper to say there's tobacco in there. Look how big around it is. You know,
It's like 6, 8 inches
and it's
long.
about this long. And so, but we had fun with it. And, you know, that's just his way. And there's Ben. This is Balo. And Doug and Betty in the background. That's all. I'm done.
So while we were doing clinics, Melissa and Tori actually did just some vacation Bible school. They just played with the kids. They colored with them. They handed out harmonicas. They handed out, one of the gentlemen brought frisbees, and so they played with them, and the kids just clung to Melissa and Tori. They just thought they were so wonderful. As you can tell, I think this one little boy spent most of the day sitting on Melissa's lap. In fact, his dad came and got him and said, okay, we got to go home. He went home with his dad, but he come running back, and next thing you know, he's crawled back up on Melissa's lap, hugging her. They did do some dental work also. Just have a few pictures of that. The gentleman that actually founded Volunteer Health Professionals is a dentist. His son is a dental tech, so he makes dentures and partials. And so they'd been going there for years pulling teeth, and so they decided they were going to come back this year and they're going to try and give them a smile back. And so those that they could do partials for, they were doing partials. And they ended up spending a lot of time into the evening working on Trevin, the dental tech. He actually spent a lot of evenings trying to get those partials done because, you know, there's a lot of tedious time. And they did find out, though, that one, their teeth are whiter than the average person in the United States. And so they need to take whiter teeth with them next time and bigger teeth because they have very big teeth. So this is the parrot that Daryl was talking about earlier. It's a crimson shining parrot, and it is endemic to Kandavu and Ono. Ono is the island that you can see right from where we were at.
I chased this parrot for days. I mean, I knew I was going to get close to it, but our camera wouldn't take a close enough picture of it. I mean, I was close to it, but the lady that was with us was a photographer, and she took this one. But I chased it. Balo and I chased them around. You know, we made a kind of a game out of it. So
We saw about 4 or 5 of them fly out from a tree one day, but you could hear them squawking all the time. It's like but you couldn't find them. until that, I think it was the last day we found them, before we left the island. This is just some pictures of some of the children that were there. And Doug in the middle there with the kids. This is actually when we were at one of the Seventh-day Adventist churches. I do have a picture at the very, very end of Liesl Clark. Liesl is our photographer that was with us, and she took a lot of these pictures of the children. Beautiful, beautiful work, and that's her specialty, is actually taking pictures of people. This is the boat that we rode in. Wherever we went from one village to the next. If we didn't walk, we took the boat. And we took this boat to go to the jungle. And we're talking, it's really a jungle. And you have to go through mangroves to get to where you actually get out, and you walk on a muddy trail to actually get up into the jungle. I wore flip-flops, not a good idea. So I ended up going barefooted for an hour walking one way. As you can see, it is really a jungle. And this is why we did this. And it was definitely well worth it. So about an hour in, it rained off and on while we were out walking out through there. But the swim was refreshing, and actually didn't get hot on the way back.
We bathed there. Our guy that took us there, his name was Luke. He's a rugby player, and I was using, I don't know, body soap, and it just, hey Luke, come on over here. And I says, lather up with us here. The women will start chasing you. And so he did. We were having a good time. And 2 days later, we got ready. We getting on our ferry, and he was there. He come running up to me. Still can smell it.
Yeah, he did get a lot of attention from the girls anyway, because one of the first things, he took his shirt off at the waterfalls, and Lisa, our photographer, I mean, she's just snapping pictures, because he had pretty amazing...
He has a six-pack like mine, only you can see his.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. This is a picture where actually the day that we ended up leaving the island, we did a lot of kind of hanging out until it was time that we were going. And so Belo and his wife actually got a lot of coconuts for us, and he sat on the ground and he hacked away on them with his knife, and he was very efficient with that knife. In fact, it was quite amazing, and got us all our coconuts. Daryl wasn't real fond of it. I kind of liked it. This is our group, all of us, plus a few extra. In fact, I think Lisa is missing there. She must have been taking it. Now you know Steve. And this is kind of how we went about. We would all load up in a boat and go on the ocean. We actually had to go probably, I don't know, 40 minutes away, wouldn't you say, to Cavallo Bay, where we picked up our ferry. Ferry was just a great big car ferry that came from, I think, Canada originally. And, they'd come in, people would unload their vehicles, loading up food. These are up on the top there, those bags are full of the cassava and the taro roots. So people were bringing in their vegetables that they're going to sell on the bigger islands.
This is where I'm thankful. My material did not come in. I still got a plane ticket over there. Because I bought an extra plane ticket because the rest of the crew was going to come back on Thursday, and I go, well, material will be here on Thursday. I'll work Thursday, Friday, and my plane ticket flew out on Saturday. So I said I'd work. It wasn't a little over $100. I go, I'll spend $100 to work. I mean, that's no big. It is a big deal, but for getting that much work done, it's okay. And material didn't show up. And on Saturday, that typhoon come in. I would have been there an extra week or two. So it was a kind of a blessing it didn't come in. Well, it wasn't no kind, it was a blessing. Otherwise, I'd have been stuck there for at least 2 more weeks, a week at least, probably 2. Don't know what the airport was doing. So, you know, everything comes in on this ferry. Everything. I mean, from hot chocolate to sugar to everything comes in on this ferry, and the material didn't come in. And I just want to clarify, I really do appreciate, Karen, I do appreciate all your prayers that you guys did for us. Obviously, they're answered. First off, I don't think I've ever had that experience in my life. So it was kind of cool, knowing that you are important enough to be answered.
So he just mentioned hot chocolate, and this just made me think of something. So the gentleman, they offered them tea. It's not tea. It's not what we know as tea. It's Milo, which is hot chocolate or chocolate milk.
Yeah, I was getting ready for a good cup of tea.
Yeah, it was just covered chocolate that they put in some water, and so I'm like, ugh. Yeah, so this is on the ferry. Steve has sleep apnea, and he did not get to sleep the entire trip because his machine broke. So needless to say, he got a little nap in. This is a newspaper that actually came out the day after the cyclone. This is looking out our motel room out onto the bay. This was earlier in the evening. As you can see, the trees are kind of going wrong direction. Just down the road, about, I don't know, 40 minutes from where we stayed in Lima, is the, I'm not sure how to say it, the Debu campsite, which is the Seventh-day Adventist junior camp. And this is the beach, beautiful, beautiful beach. And the week prior, the Friday before we actually went out to Kandavu, Melissa and Tori went out there, went snorkeling, beautiful beach. This is the day after, or 2 days after the cyclone, what the beach looked like, the exact same beach. So as you can see on the bags, and this actually is a picture of the motel that we're at. It's at right out, you can see it's open. It's right out, the dining area was right on the bay. The water was just right out there. This is while the cyclone is going. We actually ended up sandbagging, pulling all the furniture out of both the dining area and the lounge area, and sandbagging everything because water was coming over the top and onto the dining area and lounge. These are a few of the pictures right after, the day after. We couldn't go out too far because of lines were down. This was looking out from the dining area. You could see the sailboat that got pushed up into the land. And this is our photographer, Lisa. And that's it.
All right, closing.
So we stand for closing hymn 375. rewarding. Do it. You'll see what God can do for you. Should we bow our heads? Dear Father, thank you again for bringing us all here. Thank you for being with us up front and showing what we have done for your mission. Help us all to do a mission for you. Even at home here we can do a mission. Thank you. Be with us now as we go home. Help have a safe trip and help us have a good week. Help us remember you in all times. Thank you. Amen.
Yeah, it's already built.